Okay, welcome to page 120, and we're going to teach you now how to ask more complex questions than just yes-no questions. Okay? And my picture here, I'm sorry, is a little fuzzy because I had to zoom in so much. But basically what you do when you're asking questions is you start with your basic sentence, like you work, and you stick eska in front of that. So if we put you work as tu travail, or as you see right there, vous travaillez, and it's kind of hard, so maybe you're better off looking in your book on page 120 and just kind of looking back and forth to see where I'm pointing to. But so vous travaillez is you work. We stick eska on front of that, and remember eska, the way to remember it is you ask a question, aska, they sound a lot alike, right? So eska, you ask, are you working? In other words, is it that you work? Okay, so that's a yes-no question. You working? Or is it that you're working? Or as we might say in Minnesota, do you work? Okay, so now we want to make that a more complex question. And we want to stick something in front of that, like you see here, a question you're already familiar with, à quelle heure. À quelle heure, you remember from when we learned how to tell time back in chapter 4, at what time? This is the concept we learned way back then, but you see here, à quelle heure, at what time is it that you work? Or in other words, at what time do you work, as we might say. So the whole trick to it is just putting eska in front of your statement, okay, and make sure that your statement has the right ending to match up with who's doing it, the right word here to match up who you're talking to or about, and then eska in front of that, and your question word or phrase in front of that. In this case, à quelle heure. Okay? But we could use that same thing and we could say, where do you work? In that case, all we do is we take the à quelle heure out and we put in where, and you look down at the bottom of the page here and you see où. So if we were to put où in place of à quelle heure, we have where do you work. So où est-ce que vous travaillez? Again, we had the vous travaillez, we stuck eska in front of that, and now we put où, the word where is it that you work, in front of that. Okay, or I might say, when do you work? Like, do you work on Wednesday or Thursday? So you can see down here, quand, and you already saw that word before too. Remember, we learned to say quand, ton anniversaire, when's your birthday, right? So quand is when, so we can go quand est-ce que vous travaillez? When is it that you work? Okay? Or I could say, why do you work? Which is a new phrase. We're going to learn that in a second here. But you see pourquoi down here is why. Okay, so I can stick pourquoi in that spot there. Keep the eska and the vous travaillez. And I get pourquoi est-ce que vous travaillez? Why is it that you work? You know, why do you work? Well, because I need the money for my trip. Or I need to pay for my car. Or whatever would be the answer. Okay? So you can see the basic how you do it is really simple. Do your statement. Put eska in front of that, put your question phrase in front of that. So that, sorry about the bell. So once you've got that pattern down, all you have to learn then is the question words. And here are the question words. If you look down at the bottom of page 120, excuse me, if you look at the bottom of page 120, you can see, and this is again really fuzzy, I'm sorry because I had to blow it up, but you see où, so where is où? Don't forget the accent mark. If you don't have the accent on it, right there on the U, if you don't have that accent, it's the word or. Okay, so où with the accent is where, où without the accent is or. Okay, so où, and you can see that same example we were just talking about, où est-ce que vous travaillez? Where is it that you work, or where do you work? Okay, quand, and we talked about that. You already know c'est quand ton anniversaire, when's your birthday? So quand is when. Quand est-ce que ton copain organise une boom? When, quand, est-ce que, there's your est-ce que phrase right after your question word again. And then your statement was your friend's organizing a party, but now it's the question, when is your friend organizing a party? Okay? À quelle heure, you're already familiar with à quelle heure, at what time. Okay, so you can see in the example here, à quelle heure, then eska as always, and in your statement is tu regardes la télé, you watch TV. Now it's at what time is it that you watch TV? Okay? And como, we already kind of know como also. Como is how, like como va tu or como allez-vous. We kind of had it when we learned how's it going, right? Ça va, is it going? And you go, oui, ça va, no, ça va, ça va bien. That's, is it going? It's going good. But como va tu is how is it going, a little more formal. So como is how, and again you see how it's put together. Como est-ce que tu chantes? I think that's chante. Yeah, chante. My picture's really bad, sorry. So how do you sing, or word for word, how is it that you sing? How do you sing? Bien ou mal, well or badly. Okay. Again, como is how. And then pourquoi is our only really new one. We've probably never seen pourquoi before. Pourquoi is why, but it follows the same pattern as all the other question words. Pourquoi, then your est-ce que, and then your statement. Here's tu études le français. You study French, like we did back in chapter 16 or 15. So tu études le français. You study French. Est-ce que tu études le français? Do you study French? And now pourquoi? Why do you study French? Okay, so those are the basic question words: où, quand, à quelle heure, comment, and pourquoi. So I know you might be embarrassed if you're doing this in the media center or something, but repeat these now so you get the sounds down. Répétez: où, quand, à quelle heure, comment, pourquoi. And now, since they're always going to have est-ce que, or 99% of the time they're going to have est-ce que after them, let's say them again, but we'll stick the est-ce que in that you should get used to saying right after them every time. So now repeat again. I know you're in the media center, you might be embarrassed, but repeat again. Où est-ce que? Quand est-ce que? À quelle heure est-ce que? Comment est-ce que? Pourquoi est-ce que? Okay, now the last one that I skipped is parce que right here, because if you have a why question, the answer is probably going to start with because, right? So parce que is because, but look, lo and behold, you see this est-ce que here, est-ce que, est-ce que, est-ce que. Well, you have a sk right there. It's kind of just saying, oh, for the reason that is basically what that's saying. So parce que is because, or for the reason that. Sorry, another bell. So parce que je veux voyager en France is because I want to travel in France. So parce que is not really a question, it's the beginning of the answer to why questions. So parce que, because. Répétez, parce que. Alright, so you have to memorize those question phrases going right here. Où, quand, à quelle heure, comment, pourquoi. Get those in your memory banks. You have just multiplied what you can ask in French by 5. Basically, because you could take any statement like do you work and make it where do you work, when do you work, what time do you work, how do you work, maybe you don't, maybe you're lazy, you don't work so good, why do you work, because you need the money. All those things are going to be able to be added to the phrases that you already know. So what I want you to do to practice that is, let's do a workbook page together here, and I got to look at the page. I think it's 113. Yeah, it's 113. And I want you to do just the very top there, because you'll see it says, blank do you live? I live in Dakar. Okay, and so if it's, the answer is I live in Dakar, what did they ask? Probably where, right? So what's the where word? Put it in there. And then in number 2 it says, blank do you dine? In general, I dine at 8 o'clock, it says. Okay, well, it probably asked, when do you dine, right? At what time do you dine? So which of those phrases here is what time do you dine? Okay, so you do workbook page 113, and then in the next video, we'll check your answers, and we're going to do an exercise together. Okay, so thanks for tuning in. I hope this is working out for you, and this is making some sense. See how well you figured that out by doing the top only of workbook page 113. Thanks for tuning in.